What's his name? Do you love him? My voice was calm. No anger or accusing tone. Katie looked at me and tears welled up in her eyes. His name is Carl Jering, and yes, I love him. I couldn't believe my ears. My wife of 16 years just told me she was having an affair and was in love with the man. I sat there for who knows how long, staring into space, trying to process what I had just heard. With the exception of 2 hints that made me suspicious of her fidelity, I thought we had a wonderful marriage. It seemed like we were deeply in love, had 2 wonderful children, and a pretty good sex life, if I do say so myself. Was it something I did that pushed her into the arms of another man? No, I didn't believe in it. I didn't work overtime or neglect her. I have never gone on business trips. I did my part around the house. We both worked full-time, so we shared household responsibilities that were not assigned to the children, of course. We openly discussed everything that bothered us and sought to resolve any problems that arose to our mutual satisfaction. In that sense, I couldn't imagine when she would have time for an affair, given that she was home every evening and most weekends. Based on information from Nancy, she was seeing this guy during work hours, but since she had meetings with contractors, she could cover herself up to her boss. I looked up and saw Katie still sitting at the table, hugging herself and crying quietly. It hurt me to see her cry, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her at that moment. I couldn't tell her everything would be okay when she had just told me she loved another man. How long? Katie raised her head, but couldn't look me in the eyes. What you said? I raised my voice, and I'm sure there was a little anger there, but at that moment I didn't care. I said how long? She froze and took a deep breath, shuddering. 6 months. 6 months. My wife, the love of my life, cheated on me for 6 months. How could she fall in love with this guy in such a short time? It took her a year to tell me she loved me. God, how could I be so stupid? 6 months. I've been mulling over the past 6 months, trying to remember if I might have missed something that might have raised suspicions. Couldn't remember a damn thing. Yeah, it was good. At no point in the last 6 months has she treated me or the kids any differently than usual. Kathy was the same loving wife and mother she had always been. There was no change in her behavior. She had talents that I didn't know she could act like, and still have a lover and fall in love with him. Maybe she should quit her job and move to Hollywood, I thought sarcastically. It was time to ask more questions, questions I didn't want to ask, and of course questions I didn't want answered. Is it over, Katie? Paul, you know that I love you. I interrupted her. Is it over? No, it's not over. I love him, Paul. You love him, and it's not over. I think that tells me all I need to know. I got up from the table and headed towards the exit from the kitchen. Where are you going? I'm not going anywhere. You're leaving. I'm not going anywhere, Paul. What are you talking about? Katie, let's be real. You just confirmed what I already knew, that you were having an affair. You also just told me that you love this person. Besides, you just told me that it's not over, that are you still planning on seeing him? I don't see what options we have, do you? I looked at her and saw a woman who looked familiar, but was actually a stranger. Of course we have options, Paul. We need to talk about this. No, Katie, we don't need to talk about this, at least not right now. I'm very angry and shocked by what happened tonight, and I know that any conversation we could have right now would not be good. We'll work out. This means that we need to separate for a while so that later we can calmly discuss this. I sighed heavily and continued, since you cheated and disgraced me and our marriage, I think it's fair that you leave. Houses. I waited for an answer that never came. Katie's only reaction was to sob even louder as she buried her head in her hands. I stood and watched her son inconsolably before speaking. Katie, where are the kids? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, took a handkerchief from her pocket, and blew her nose. Your parents have them. Did you forget they took them for the weekend? They took them from Todd and Evelyn this afternoon. Right, I forgot. I think it's for the best for you. What do you mean? You can spend the weekend at Evelyn's and not upset the kids. Why should I go to Evelyn? Weren't you listening, Katie? We need time to calm down after everything that happened today, and we can't do that living under the same roof. Since it's your fault, I think it's only fair that you leave now. Paul, please, can we discuss this? Katie, I'm going away for a couple of hours. When I get back, I hope you won't be here. If you are, I'll gladly throw you out the door with nothing but the clothes on your back. It's up to you, Katie. If you spend the weekend at your sister's or on the front lawn, I don't care. With that, I turned on my heel and walked out of the house, the sounds of Katie's sobs echoing in my ears. I knew I was in no mood to drive. I was too angry to see the road adequately, so I decided to walk to the bar, which was 2 miles away. Given my mood, this was probably the safest choice, since there would be no need to try to drive home if I had too much, which seemed quite likely. If I was too drunk to walk back, I could always call a taxi. Soon I sat down at the bar and ordered a beer. There was a baseball game on TV, but I didn't watch it. It was pretty quiet for a Saturday, but it was still early. I assumed there would be more people later. The beer was good, cold and wet, which is what I needed right now. Despite my desire to get drunk and forget this whole mess, I sipped my beer and reflected on my situation. My marriage went from the greatest thing in my life to a nightmare in a matter of minutes. Despite my suspicions, I hoped I was wrong, or at least that the affair had ended, and she had simply forgotten about the clothes in the trunk. Never in my wildest nightmares did I think that the affair was going on, and that she didn't want to end it. Why is this guy better than me? What can he give her to make her fall in love with him, and want to tell me that she still wants to see him? What will I do without her in my life? What about the children? God, it was a nightmare that was getting worse by the second. What am I going to do? I still love her, but can I accept her ongoing affair? This question was perhaps the easiest to answer in all the disaster that my life had become. No, I can't stand the fact that she continues to date this guy. His name was Carl. Yes, Carl. I just can't accept the fact that she will continue the affair and still remain my wife. I am a monogamist, and I am not going to share my wife with anyone. This is not negotiable. No matter how much I love her, I cannot share her. I can't keep her in my bed knowing that she was with her lover that day or wondering if she thinks about him when she's with me. I'm not like that. I'm not jealous or possessive, but I don't like the idea of an open marriage either. No, I won't be sharing Katie in the future. With that resolved, now it's time for more complex questions. If she decides to stay with me, can I forgive her? I thought about my life with Katie from the moment we met until the moment I found those clothes yesterday, and I realized that I really wanted to keep this life. I had everything I wanted, and I really think I can forgive her enough that we can go to counseling and deal with this mistake she made and move on with our lives. I know she loves me. She's really not that good of an actress, and I know she loves children just like me. Do I want to throw away 16 excellent years because of a mistake, even such a serious one? No, I really don't want to. I'm angry at her for what she did to us, to our marriage, of course. Am I going to let her know exactly how I feel about this when we talk? You're damn right I'm going to. Will I be able to forgive her if she agrees to end the affair and never see Carl again? Yes, I can. This is just a difficult stage in a wonderful marriage, and we can overcome it, with great difficulty on both sides, of course. I need to understand why she did this and why she fell in love with this guy. That's the only thing that doesn't make sense to me. How could she tell me, right to my face, that she loved Carl and that she loved me and still seem sincere? I have not noticed any decrease in her love for me, despite my best efforts to remember. Until the very moment she told me that she loved another man, her love for me shone in her eyes as strongly as ever. Can she really love us both? I don't understand how this is possible, but I'm not a woman, so I don't know what's possible in her case. I called the bartender to get me another beer and checked my watch. It had only been half an hour since I sat down and an hour since I left the house. I had enough time for one more beer, then I had to get out of here. I sincerely hoped she wouldn't be there when I got home because I didn't want to fight anymore. I wanted to go home, drink a little more, go to bed, and try to sleep. I didn't want to throw her out the door, but I will if I have to, and she knows I'm serious. She wouldn't be there, I was sure of it, or at least as sure as I could be in this situation, which wasn't too much. The house was dark when I approached the front door, which was a good sign. I really didn't want a confrontation now that our feelings are still so intense. I opened the front door, walked in, locked it behind me, and walked into the living room. Nothing physically changed while I was gone, but the room and house did. What was once a happy, loving home was now an empty, cold house with only memories to ease my loneliness. I glanced at the answering machine. It had 5 messages, none of which I wanted to listen to. I didn't turn on the light because the darkness suited my mood, and there was enough light coming in from the street that I could see the furniture without tripping. I headed to the liquor cabinet and pulled out a bottle of Jack Daniels and a glass. I plopped down in my favorite chair, poured 3 fingers of whiskey, and took a sip. It burned my throat, but in a pleasant way, you know. It settled in the stomach, where it tried to melt the ice lump that had formed in the stomach. Failed. I decided to help this first sip and emptied the glass in one gulp. No changes. Well, this required serious measures, so I poured a full glass and drank it in 3 gulps. My stomach felt warm, but I didn't feel any better. I poured another full glass and settled into the chair, sipping the drink, and somewhere during the glass I passed out. The sun streaming through the windows hit my face, waking me from my slumber. God, what happened to me? My head felt like a herd of elephants were trampling on it, and my mouth felt like they had walked over my tongue. I tried to open my eyes, but gave up because it hurt too much. I tried to move my hand, but it hung at my side, so numb that I couldn't feel it. I looked around the room and realized that I had fallen asleep in the chair where I had stayed the night before. It had been years since I slept all night in a chair, and now I remembered why. Every muscle in my body ached. 40-year-old men shouldn't sleep in chairs, and my body was going to make sure I knew that so I wouldn't do it again. After 3 attempts, I finally managed to get my legs under me, which was another adventure, as my knees did not want to support me and my head threatened to fall off my shoulders. I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get to the kitchen, find coffee, and pour it into the coffee maker. Filling the coffee maker with water was a little more difficult as my hands were shaking so much that half of the water spilled into the sink the first time, but soon the coffee maker was purring, filling with the life-giving liquid I needed. I pulled a chair up to the counter and sat down heavily. I think I must have dozed off because when I looked up again, the coffee was ready. I was lucky the mug was on the counter as I couldn't remember where we kept them at the moment. Picking up the coffee pot, I put the spout to the mug like a blind man and carefully poured. However, I still burned my fingers as my hands were still shaking. Grasping the mug with both hands, I carefully sipped the hot liquid and felt my body relax a little. 3 cups of coffee later, I felt completely human, so I put the mug down and headed to the bathroom to shower. I took off my clothes along the way and walked to the bathroom in my underwear. I set the water to just below scalding, took off my shorts and t-shirt and climbed under the water, letting it fall over my head and flow down my body. After a few minutes, I took the soap and began to wash myself. As I got cleaner and the water cleared the knots out of my muscles, I felt better, probably as good as I could possibly feel. I turned off the water and dried myself off. Wrapping a towel around my waist, I walked over to the sink to shave. I looked in the mirror and did not recognize the person who was looking at me. Who was this old man? This guy had dark circles under his eyes and a dead look in his eyes. Was it me? I shook my head to clear my eyes, inserted the razor, and ran it across my face. Having combed my hair, I went downstairs. The flickering light on the answering machine caught my attention, and even though I didn't want to, I pressed play. "Paul, are you home? Pick up the phone now. How dare you kick my sister out of her house?" The call ended as abruptly as it began, but this was not the last message from Evelyn on the answering machine. All 5 messages were from her, with increasing levels of anger questioning my origins. The last message ended with her saying she would see me in the morning. Oh joy, I didn't want to talk to Katie, and I certainly didn't want to argue with Evelyn. I looked at my watch and saw that it was only 7:30. I didn't think she could come that early, so I decided to go to breakfast and then stay out all day. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and my intention to avoid Evelyn did not work. While I was looking for my keys, they started knocking on the door. "Paul, open that door right now. I'm not leaving until you talk to me, and I'm sure you don't want me to wake up your neighbors." I walked over and opened the door between knocks, and she almost punched me in the chest. "Good morning, Evelyn. Would you like to come in?" I turned and headed towards the kitchen without even waiting for an answer. She walked into the kitchen just as I was getting another mug from the cabinet. "Would you like some coffee?" I said as pleasantly as possible, given the circumstances. Some of her anger went away as she sat down in the chair. "Coffee would be good, with milk and sugar, please." I placed the mug in front of her, then took the carton of milk from the refrigerator and the sugar from the counter, placed them in front of her, and sat down, waiting for her to make herself some coffee. She took a sip and began, "Okay, Paul, why did you kick Katie out?" "She didn't tell you?" "No, all she did was cry and say how sorry she was and that she didn't want to lose you. I couldn't get anything else out of her for hours and finally gave her a sedative and I put you to bed. I tried to call you after she arrived and every 15 minutes for an hour before I gave up. So, please tell me what's going on. Maybe I can help." I had always liked Evelyn. She seemed as sensible as a woman could be, so I decided to be as frank with her as possible, given that I myself did not know all the details. Katie cheated on me. The mug fell from her hands and rattled on the table. Thank God it wasn't too high, otherwise she might have gotten burned. She looked at me in disbelief. No, she wouldn't. She did it. I wasn't sure until yesterday, but when I got home, I asked her straight out about it, and she admitted it. I looked at the table, waiting for her to process what I had told her. "Oh my God, I didn't think she'd actually do that," she said so quietly I barely heard her. "What did you say? Did you know about this?" I asked more harshly than I intended. She blushed and picked up her mug again, taking another sip before speaking again. "Not really, no, I didn't know about that specifically." "It's good that you knew specifically. 6 or 7 months ago, Katie came to me and said she saw her old school friend in town. I don't think she ever told you about Carl, but she was really in love with him when they were young. There was even talk about marriage. I never knew about it. I know Katie had boyfriends in college before we met, but I didn't know there was anyone serious." "Oh, it was serious. Carl's family moved out shortly after they graduated, and they kept in touch, vowing to be together as soon as they could. This went on for over a year until one day the connection broke. She tried to find him, but his father died, and they moved again without leaving a contact address. She was devastated. She really believed that they should be together. I thought that she might do something stupid, so I sent her to a psychologist, and gradually she got out from the hole in which she found herself. And then she met you. I had never seen her happier, and it seemed as if she had put Carl behind her, thinking of him fondly, but not living for him. Then, as I said, 6 or 7 months ago, she came and told me that she saw Carl in the city and had coffee with him. She looked the same as when she was a teenager when she talked about Carl. I told her that she should not meet with an old friend. She is now a married woman with 2 beautiful women, children, and a husband who would walk on water for her or drown trying. I told her to stop living in fantasies before she ruins her marriage and family." Evelyn stopped and moved the mug towards me. I poured her more coffee and waited for her to finish her story. I thought I had gotten through to her because when she left, she thanked me for being a good sister and reminded her of what she had. I really thought she was fine and soon forgot about the conversation. She didn't seem different to me, and I guess you didn't either, and she didn't mention it again, so neither did I at that point, and I didn't think she would, so I never told anyone about it. I didn't even tell Todd. God, now I'm so sorry I didn't talk to her again. It's not your fault, Evelyn. She didn't show any outward signs all this time and at home. If I hadn't noticed the hickey, I wouldn't have had any suspicions. Suck? Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I walked into the bathroom while she was getting dressed and noticed a bruise on her chest. She told me some lame story about getting hurt at work, but she looked guilty. Then I found out about the collision with a woman outside the motel and the man who was with her. She lied about what happened, so I started to worry. Then, like I said, yesterday I got confirmation that she was cheating. I found underwear in a bag in the trunk of her car. "This could be a surprise for you," she said hopefully. I could have, but the panties were clearly not worn for me. "Oh," she said disappointedly. "My feelings are exactly the same. So, where do we go from here?" Last night I asked her who he was and if she loved him. She said his name was Carl and that she loved him. Honestly, I was really angry yesterday evening, and instead of doing or saying something that I would later regret, I told her to leave. Since she was at fault, I thought it was fair for her to leave the house. "I see your point, Paul. I wish I had known that last night. I wish you had called me back. I didn't want to talk to anyone yesterday, Evelyn. I wasn't sure the calls weren't from Katie, so I ignored them and got drunk. If you had come 5 minutes later, I wouldn't be here. I would have been gone all day. I couldn't sleep, so I left early. I asked Todd to feed the kids and take them away so Katie wouldn't be disturbed. I probably need to get back before she wakes up in an empty house. Are you ready to talk to her? She probably will, as soon as he finds out I was here." "I guess so. At least she stayed away for a while longer. It's still so fresh that I'm not sure I won't lose my calm again. Do you know I love you, Paul? You've been a wonderful husband to my sister. I couldn't have chosen better. I'll talk to her today, make her tell me everything this time, and then see what happens. If I feel like she's not ready to talk to you, I'll tell you. I'll call later today, no matter what happens." She stood up, walked over to me, and kissed me on the cheek. "Thank you for your support, Evelyn. I love you too. I really hope everything works out, but I have a bad feeling. I'll be waiting for your call. I need to pick up the kids from their parents at 5 o'clock. So please call before I have to come up with some excuse for the kids if she's not home." "Hold on, Paul. I'll talk to you later." I went to breakfast and then spent the day doing chores in the garden. Evelyn called around 3 and said that Kathy would be staying with them for a few more days and asked if I could find someone to take care of the kids for a while. I thanked her for her efforts and asked my neighbor, Mrs. East Kelly, if she could watch the kids for a few days while I was away. When she asked, I told her that Katie had gone to her parents. Having settled this, I left home at 4 to pick up the children. As soon as I arrived at my parents' house, my mother immediately realized that something was wrong when she saw the expression on my face. The kids were outside with my dad, so I just told her that Katie and I were having personal problems, but I couldn't say more. She hugged me, and it was very nice at that moment. She kissed me on the cheek and said she would pray for us. I thanked her and went outside to my father and children. We played for another hour, and then Mom made us stay for dinner. There were awkward moments when the children asked why their mother was not with me. I told them she was helping Aunt Evelyn for a few days. Jason seemed to accept it and moved on to other things, but Christy wasn't sure, although she kept her feelings to herself. The drive home was quiet, and the mood was low as the children remembered that their mother would not be home. We watched TV, and then we all went to bed early. I hope the kids slept better than I did. This continued until the following Friday. Katie and the kids talked every evening, but I was always conveniently out of the room when it was my turn, so I avoided talking to her, even though I felt embarrassed about it. Evelyn called me at work on Thursday and asked if I was ready to talk to Katie. I said I had calmed down enough to discuss things. I arranged for the kids to have dinner at Mrs. Kelly's while Kathy and I met up. I didn't want to discuss it at home because I didn't want to be alone with her. We agreed to meet in a quiet restaurant with semi-private booths, so we could have some privacy but still be in public. We agreed to meet at 7. I arrived a few minutes early and waited at the bar. Katie came in exactly at 7, saw me at the bar, and came over. "Hi, Paul." "Hey, Katie, would you like a drink?" "Yes, thank you. I would like a gimlet, please." We grabbed our drinks and walked to our table. I asked the hostess to give us as much privacy as possible, so she seated us as far away from others as possible. We were given menus, and we were left alone. No one would have guessed that we had been married for 16 years based on the way we behaved with each other. We looked at the menu and went through it trying to decide what to order before the waitress arrived. During this time, we barely said a few words to each other. Luckily, the waitress came, and we ordered. We were left alone again. I spoke first. "You look beautiful today, Katie." She looked at me, barely holding back tears. "Thanks, Paul. Look, I'm sorry." "Katie," I interrupted, "I don't want to discuss this right now. Please, let's wait until we eat. I don't want to be constantly interrupted by the waitress." "Sorry, Paul. I won't bring it up again." We sat in silence until the salads arrived, then again until the main courses arrived. Finally, we finished eating, although I can't say I ate much, and neither did Katie. I realized that I could no longer put off this conversation. "Okay, Katie, we've finished eating as much as we could. Please tell me what you wanted to say earlier." And I sat back, waiting. Now that it was time to speak, Katie didn't seem particularly eager to start. She took a deep breath, began to speak, and then stopped without saying a word. She looked at her plate, sighed again, and began. "I'm so sorry I hurt you, Paul. I didn't and never wanted you to find out. I love you." "That's a weird way to show it, Katie. How can you say you love me when you say you love Carl?" "That's the problem, Paul. I really love you, and I love Carl too." "Oh, this is so confusing." She stopped, and the tears she had been holding back flowed down her cheeks. I took a handkerchief out of my pocket and handed it to her. She wiped her eyes and gathered her strength. "Why don't you try to explain it to me? I want to understand how you can love both of us. Evelyn told me a little about Carl and what he meant to you. Why don't you fill in the blanks?" She continued to tell me everything Evelyn had told me, plus her inner feelings about Carl and how she fantasized about what life with him might have been like before he was taken from her. She hid her fantasy when she met me and moved on with her life, or at least thought she did, until she saw Carl again and all the old fantasies and desires came back to her with renewed vigor. She found herself unable to stay away from him, although Evelyn was very convincing about what could have happened if she had gone ahead and met Carl in a more intimate setting. Although I didn't want to hear it, she also told me how she felt when they made love. I stopped her when she started going into too much detail. I didn't need or want to hear it. Eventually, she fell silent, and the tears began to flow again. "Paul, I can't explain it enough for you to understand, but I love you more today than I did on our wedding day. But I also love Carl. He makes me feel things that I can't feel with you. Other things, not better or worse, just different. And I want these feelings, and I want you. Do you remember the old song, Torn Between Two Lovers? So that's how I feel about you and Carl. You can understand what I'm talking about." I remembered the song she mentioned. I remembered its meaning. The woman said she loved her husband, gave him her virginity, but found a lover who did for her what her husband could not do because they were connected by different parts of her personality. She said that she loved both men and did not want to give up on either of them. I remembered the song, but couldn't understand the feeling and told her about it. "Katie, I just can't accept that you can love me and love another man. Maybe it's because I'm a man and want to deal with facts and concrete things, and you're a woman and in touch with your feelings. I'm not, no. I know that as a man who heard this song, I felt anger at that woman and pity for her husband. Now you tell me that I love you very much and probably always will, but I can't share with you. Paul, I love you too, can't you see? Did I treat you differently when I was with Carl? Did I show you any less love? How can you think that I don't love you when I showed how much I love you?" "You're right, Katie. You've never shown me less love that I know of, but that was before I knew what I know now. I can't accept that my wife has a lover and doesn't want to leave him. I love you, Katie, but I won't share you. I'll make you a deal. You tell me you'll leave Carl. I mean you'll never see or talk to him again, and I'll try to forget that. Did this ever happen? You can come home today, right now, if you want, and we will go to counseling to work through this. I'm very hurt by what you did, Katie, but I love you so much, and I don't want to leave from our marriage without giving you every opportunity I can. Will you do this for us, Katie? I waited for her to readily accept my proposal, but with every second I felt our marriage slipping away. By the time Katie looked at me, I already knew she was gone. I love you very much, Paul, but I can't leave Carl. He was my first and greatest love, and I just brought him back into my life. You can't ask me to leave him now. Please, Paul, can't we? How can I solve this? I shook my head and covered my eyes with my hand to hide my tears. I didn't want to cry in the middle of the restaurant. I hoped that our 16 years of marriage and our children would mean something to Katie, but I underestimated her desire to live out her fantasy with her lover. I had to leave. I couldn't stay there any longer. I'm sorry, Katie. No, we can't work this out, and I'm amazed that you choose Carl over me and the kids. Children, what do you mean? I will file for divorce on the first Monday, Katie, and will seek full custody of the children. If you can leave our family for this, I don't think it will be difficult for me to prove that you are unfit to be a mother. I will also file for Carl for alienation of love. If you do not want our families to know all the details of your affair and why we are getting divorced, I suggest that you do not dispute this. My lawyer will contact you soon. Please do not contact me directly. Through our lawyers. Please tell Evelyn where you are going to live so I can tell my lawyer. Goodbye, Katie. I wish you a good life. I walked up to the bar and paid our bill, then got out of there as quickly as possible. I pulled out of the parking lot, but didn't go far because I couldn't see with the tears streaming down my face. Luckily, there was a park nearby, so I turned there and cried like a baby for the next half hour. How could she do this to us? I thought we would grow old together, and now I was a 40-year-old, soon-to-be divorced single father. Children. Oh God, what will I tell them? I needed to pick up the kids from a neighbor because I told her I wouldn't be staying long. I found some tissues in the glove compartment to wipe my face since I had given Katie my handkerchief. I started the car again and slowly drove home. Mrs. Hirsch Kelly probably guessed it didn't work out because when she saw me at the door, she said she was very sorry. I thanked her, and after paying for her time, the kids and I crossed the street and entered our house. My children were quite smart, and they felt that something was wrong with their old man. "Dad, what happened?" asked Christy. "Nothing, honey. I just don't feel well." "Oh," she said. "When will Mommy come home?" "I don't know, honey. Aunt Evelyn still needs her help," I said sadly. "Oh, okay, Dad." She turned to her brother and said, "Come on, Jason, let's go to my room." "Okay, sis," he replied, and they slowly walked to Christy's room at the back of the house. I sat in the living room, thinking that I had avoided having to tell the children the truth. I didn't know how they would take it, and I wanted to soften the blow somehow. They soon returned with serious expressions on their faces. I felt my heart sink into my boots. I could not escape the need to tell the truth. "Dad," we said, Christy began, "we know there's something going on between you and Mom. We talked to Alexis and Alyssa, and they said Aunt Evelyn is fine. We also know Mom is staying there, and all she does is cry when she's in her room." "Yes, Dad," Jason added, "we have friends with divorced parents, and we've heard enough to know that you and Mom don't get along. Please, Dad, tell us what's going on." I looked at my two children and was surprised when they became so mature. They were only 13 and 11, for God's sake. As much as I wanted to protect my children, I knew I couldn't lie to them, but that didn't mean I had to tell them everything. Mom and I are having problems in our marriage, and we've decided to separate. For now, Mom will be living with Aunt Evelyn and Uncle Todd, but I think she'll find a place to live soon. Once she's settled, we'll work together to make sure that you two will be able to see her as often as you want. Mom and I love you very much. Never doubt that. Nothing you did caused this. Sometimes adults change and want different things, and this is one of those times. Mom and I want different things, and staying together is no longer an option for us. I'm really sorry, kids, for both of us. Christy and Jason ran towards me, and I hugged them tightly. I tried to hold back my tears, but I wasn't entirely successful, and soon all three of us were crying. We kissed and hugged each other until my arms were tired, but I couldn't let them go. My daughter spoke first. "We know you love us, Dad. We love you too. Don't worry, Dad. We can handle it. You'll see." "Yes, Dad, don't worry. We can both help around the house more," my son said. "Everything will be fine, Dad. Everything will be fine." Don't I have wonderful children? I had to calm them down, and they calmed me down. "Thank you, kids. You're right. Everything will be fine. It's getting late. Why don't you get ready for bed, and I'll come by in a few minutes to wish you good night." "Okay, Dad," Christy said, and she and her brother went to their rooms. On Monday morning, I arrived at the office early to get work done, because I planned to leave early to meet with the lawyer I was going to call. We had friends who were getting divorced, and I called a few guys asking for recommendations. I was given the name of a really tough lawyer who worked extensively for fathers in custody cases. I wanted full custody, but I wanted to be fair about visitation. I also planned to be fair in the property division because I wanted her to agree to the custody stipulation. I was able to schedule an appointment for the same day, and after spending an hour with the lawyer, I was confident that I would get what I wanted. I returned home to find Evelyn waiting for me on the steps. "How did you know I'd be here so early?" I asked her. "I called your office, and they told me that you had an appointment and that you would not be coming back to the office. I assumed that you had gone to see your lawyer and assumed that you would be back right after that. I wanted to have time to talk to you before the kids come home." I opened the door and invited her to sit on the sofa. "Can I get you something to drink?" "No, thank you, Paul. I wanted to tell you how sorry I am that this happened. I just can't understand my sister. She told me about your offer to come home if she left Carl, and that she couldn't do it. She also told me that you are going to fight for full custody of the children, and even this did not move her. She is under some kind of obsession or fantasy, and I cannot understand how she could trade 16 years of marriage for a guy. I haven't seen you for 20 years. She buried her head in her hands and began to cry. I stood up and sat next to her, putting my arm around her shoulder. "Thanks, Paul. I really need a good hug right now." I stepped back and smiled sadly at her. "Anytime, Evelyn. I appreciate everything you do for me and for your sister. I just wish she was as sane as you. God, I miss her so much. I miss her every day, and especially at night, when I lie in this big empty bed. But I cannot afford to be a fool and accept her need for Carl while remaining her husband. No matter how much I love her, I cannot be less than myself and ignore what I believe in. I took our marriage vows seriously, and when the priest said, 'giving up all others,' he made no exception for old boyfriends who come back after 20 years. I didn't think she would ever do something like that, and I don't think that if the situation were reversed, she would have accepted me having a mistress while remaining married. No way. She told me she couldn't share you with another woman, but she also said she knew she wouldn't have to because you were a monogamist, and she was your woman. I don't understand what's on her, Paul. I really don't understand. I noticed that the kids would be home soon, and I needed to get to dinner. Evelyn, will you stay and have dinner with us? The kids will be here soon, and I need to start cooking." "No thanks, Paul. I need to get home and feed my kids too. I just wanted you to know that Todd and I will always be here for you, and that Katie started looking for a place to live today. When she finds something, I will let you know." I took out the business card my lawyer had given me and handed it to her. "Please let my lawyer know when you have information. I really don't want to know where she will live, and I don't want to talk to her. The only way I can deal with this is to avoid any contact with her, and if I find out where she lives, I'll be tempted to try to see her, and if I see Carl, I won't be held accountable for my actions. The kids need me at home, not in jail for assault." "Okay, Paul, I'll give the information to your lawyer when I get it. Tell the kids we said hi and tell them we love them too." "I'll tell you, Evelyn, and thank you for everything." Katie moved into her own apartment within a week, and the children began visiting her at Evelyn's. I didn't want them in her apartment unattended because I didn't want Carl to have contact with my children. Katie turned out to be much more reasonable than I expected. She agreed to all the restrictions I placed on her regarding visits and did not challenge my proposed division of property. She wanted to get a divorce as soon as possible in order to be with Carl officially, so she agreed to everything. I kept the house, but gave her most of our savings, which was equal to the cost of the house. Since the divorce was uncontested, the entire process took 6 months. I didn't even have to go to court to get the final decision because my lawyer said that my presence was not required. I didn't really want to see Katie again. Every time I thought about her, I became depressed, and the doubts about what I could have done differently returned. Todd, Evelyn, and even the children told me that there was nothing I could do to influence Katie's actions, that her fantasy of Carl was too strong, stronger even than her attachment to the children. I could never understand how she could give up custody of her children for this man, and I probably never will. Christy, despite being only 11, took on the role of the woman in the house. She had always been mature for her age, but when her mom left, she took over running the house, at least when it came to her brother and me. I hired a woman to do the cooking and cleaning, but Christy took charge so that Jason and I weren't lazy when things needed to be done. She reminded me of my mother, but in a good way. No matter how hard I try to hide the true reason for the divorce from Christy and Jason, news travels fast, and bad news travels even faster. One evening, shortly before the divorce was finalized, Christy walked into the office where I was reading the newspaper. "Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?" asked Christy. "Of course, honey, anytime." "Dad, Jason and I talked, and we don't want to visit Mom anymore." I was shocked to hear this, as I had tried very hard not to say anything bad about their mother. "Why, honey? You know that your mother loves you very much. It will be very painful for her if you stop visiting her. We know that Mom left you for another man and that she agreed to full custody so she could be with him. How can she say she loves us if she left us for another man?" I didn't know what to tell her. I didn't plan on having this conversation for at least a few more years. I lowered my head, sighed, and looked into her eyes. "Just because your mother doesn't live with us doesn't mean she doesn't love you. Circumstances change in people's lives, men and women grow apart, and it has nothing to do with not loving your children when they can no longer live together. Who told you that Mom left us for another man?" "Dad, we are not stupid. You and Mom seemed so in love, and then one day Mom was no more. Something big had to happen, and it had to be Mom's sin because she left home. If it was you who screwed up, you wouldn't be there, so it had to be Mom. Plus, kids hear things even when we shouldn't. When Mom went to live with Aunt Evelyn, our cousins overheard the adults talking and told us." "What, Dad? How can you say that Mom loves us if she left us for another man?" I just sat there, stunned. Here I was thinking that we, Todd, Evelyn, and I, were so careful not to talk in front of the children. I guess I should have realized that I couldn't hide it forever. All I could do now was try to convince her to keep in touch with her mother, despite her feelings of rejection and abandonment. "Even though you think that this is the reason why Mom left us, you should know that she has never stopped loving you and will never stop loving you. She believed that it would be better for you and Jason to live in our house with me than to move to be with her. I don't want you to stop seeing your mom. It would be wrong to punish her because she and I can't live together anymore. I won't force you to see her if that's true. Your wish, but I ask you to think about it. I hope that after this you will want to continue to see her, no matter what she or I have done." She stood there for a few seconds, considering my words. She fidgeted with her legs and lowered her head, but soon looked up again with a slight smile on her face. "Okay, Dad, we'll think about it. Thanks for being honest with us." She kissed me on the cheek and went to her brother's room, I assume, to tell him about our conversation. Our life entered a new rut, and the children continued to visit their mother. In fact, they started staying over at her place, although Jason liked it less than Christy. For me, weekends and holidays when Katie had the kids were difficult. The house was very empty these days, so I tried not to spend much time at home. I started working every other Saturday and spent the rest of the weekends with my parents. My mom and dad found it a double blessing, of course. On the one hand, they were happy to see me more often, but the reason for this made them sad because they saw how the situation was affecting me. I began to understand my father better over those years as I began to join his morning walks around the neighborhood. He basically let me talk, which was good because I needed to speak up, but I didn't look for solutions since there weren't any. My social life has also decreased dramatically. I felt uncomfortable at parties and meetings without a date, of course. Our friends continued to invite me to events, and when they were family gatherings where children were involved, I tried to attend them in order to maintain the usual rhythm of the children's lives. There were also well-meaning friends and relatives who brought single women to these events, introducing them to me. I tried to date someone, but it was too early for me. I was not ready for a new relationship, although I really missed it, since I had not yet forgotten Katie. I wasn't having fun on these dates, so after a few bad dates, I asked my friends to stop trying to set me up with someone because I didn't want to waste women's time. Luckily, they agreed and stopped trying to get me dates as I was starting to avoid events to avoid being set up with someone, which further reduced my social activity. My mom noticed that I spent too much time alone, whether the kids were home or not, and suggested that I take up a hobby or take a class, something I've always wanted to do but never had the time. I knew I needed something to occupy my time, so I started looking for courses at a local college. I found several courses that could improve my professional skills, which killed two birds with one stone. Despite my attempts to avoid news about Katie and her activities, some rumors did reach me. The kids were great. They rarely mentioned their mother, except when talking about their weekends, which was interesting to me as a father. However, when I was at Todd and Evelyn's house, at family gatherings or holidays, I couldn't avoid the rumors. There were too many people who knew both of us to expect them not to talk about the situation. Although they usually tried to avoid the topic in my presence, I still overheard a few things. I learned that Katie got married shortly after the divorce and seemed happy in her new life. I was glad to hear this, despite my feelings about the divorce. I still loved Katie and didn't want her to be unhappy with her choice. She left me for her fantasy, and as strange as it may sound, I wanted her fantasy to become reality. I think I really loved her. It would be better for her to be happy with another man than unhappy with me. Over time, and as Jason grew older, his school and extracurricular activities began to take up more of his time, causing him to visit his mother less and less. After all, what high school student wants to spend the weekend with his parents when there are so many other things to do? Not visiting his mother didn't mean he spent more time with me, so I didn't get any benefit from it, but I understood. My son played on the basketball team in the fall and on the baseball team in the spring. He was also an active participant in school government, which also took a lot of time. Christy was also active in school activities, but still found time to visit her mother. I believed that it was important for her to have a female influence in her life, and who better to do that than her mother. I heard about their shopping trips and girl talk together, and it made me happy that she had such a good role model. I could see that Katie was trying to show Christy that a loving relationship with a good man is great, but not something she should be pursuing right now since she is too young to date. Katie and I emphasized the importance of education and school activities, and it paid off. Christy, of course, went to meet with friends, but only in a group, which reduced the pressure that girls might feel in one-on-one pairings. All things considered, my children grew up just as I had hoped. I was proud of them and often told them so. I started dating again about 2 years after my divorce. I stayed away long enough and felt the need for female company, at least sometimes. My friends introduced me to some amazing women, and I started dating a few of them. Going to the cinema, having dinner, attending concerts, and other events was much more enjoyable in the company of a woman. No matter how much I tried to be honest with these women about my expectations for relationships, some were still disappointed when they wanted to take things to a more serious level, and I politely reminded them that I was only looking for easy dates. This conflict usually led to us parting as friends, as I felt uncomfortable wasting the woman's time. And then, when you least expect it and are not looking for it, love finds you and sweeps you off your feet. I went to the dentist for my semi-annual checkup, and there was a new hygienist there to clean my teeth. She looked about my age, around 40, with short brown hair and dark chocolate eyes. But what really struck me was her smile. Working in a dental office, she certainly had good teeth, but her smile was so natural and genuine that it made me happy just to be around. Since she was working on my teeth, we didn't have much time to talk while she worked. I noticed she wasn't wearing any wedding rings, which was a good sign. I learned that she started working here 2 months ago, has a son about Jason's age, and has been divorced for 10 years. She seemed to enjoy talking to me, so I steeled myself and invited her to lunch the next day. To my surprise, she agreed, and I went home that evening with a spring in my step that I hadn't had in years. I got home later than usual, of course, so I told the kids to eat without me. Christy heard me come in and warmed up my dinner as I walked into the kitchen. "Hi, Dad. How was your visit?" "Great, no cavities. I'm good for another 6 months. It's kind of a shame to eat now and ruin such a good cleaning," I said, chuckling. "You look really happy today, Dad. What happened? Did they give you laughing gas or something?" I ruffled her hair as I walked past her to the cabinet to get a glass. "No, good girl, they didn't give me laughing gas. Can't a man be happy here without you assuming he's on something?" I answered, laughing. "Of course it can, Dad. I just haven't seen you this happy in a long time. It's a nice change. Whatever caused it, I hope you do it more often." I sat down with a plate and started eating. Between bites, I asked about her day and where Jason was. "I had a great day at school. I aced my geometry test and finished my English essay a week early. Jason has practice today, then he's going to Andy's for dinner, remember?" "I guess I forgot. Congratulations on your successful test, honey. I'm very proud of you." Christy smiled happily and sat down opposite me while I ate. "Thanks, Dad. I know you're proud of me, but it's nice to hear that. By the way, what would you like for lunch tomorrow? I'm making breakfast today because Mrs. Roberts left early." I started taking lunch to work to better control my diet and save some money, so I asked the housekeeper to prepare lunch for me when she cooked for the kids. "I don't need lunch tomorrow, honey. I have a lunch date." "A date? A real date? Is it a date with a woman and all that?" she asked with excitement. She seemed unable to sit still while waiting for my answer. "Well, yeah, I'm meeting a woman for lunch. Is that a problem?" I said with a smile. "You're kidding. I've been waiting a long time for you to finally pull your head out of the sand and start dating again." "What do you mean?" I asked with feigned indignation. "I've been dating for a while. You know I've been on dates. I go out a couple times a month with different women." "It's not dates, Dad. It's just going out with your girlfriends. You were never interested in any of them enough to bring them home or see them often. I'm not complaining. Of course it was nice to see you go out and spend time with a woman, but it's hard to call it dating." "And what makes you think this lunch date is different?" "First of all, you never asked any of those women to dinner. You only met on weekends, never on weekdays, and never for lunch. Secondly, you weren't in that mood when you talked about your plans before. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that this woman is different from your usual dates, and I'm glad about it." "When did you become so smart, Christy? This woman is really different from my usual companions. I met her today at the dentist. She works there. I couldn't take my eyes off her smile and her personality, and when we talked, there was an immediate feeling between us. Mutual understanding, so I asked her out to dinner, and she said yes. We both don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to take her to TGI Fridays for a dinner proposal. If all goes well, I think I'll ask her out on Friday night." "Wow, Dad, that's great. I hope everything works out. You've been on the sidelines for too long. You're a nice man and have a lot to offer a woman. I know you were stressed about the divorce, and it took a while to get over it. I'm just glad to see that you're willing to take risks again." "Wow, honey," I said seriously, "I think you're putting too much into this lunch date. I just met this woman. It's too early to assume there's more to it than there is. Sorry, Dad. I didn't mean that you were going to get engaged tomorrow or anything. I'm just glad to see a positive change in your attitude towards dating compared to your usual feelings. Hopefully you'll have a good time tomorrow, she said with a smug smile. Yeah, hopefully I'll have a good time. I hope you didn't jinx me. I didn't jinx it, you'll see. With that, she left me to finish my dinner alone. I left work a little early for lunch, so I wouldn't be late for Heidi. She was waiting for me outside her office, so I stopped and opened the door for her. Thank you very much, kind sir. I could get used to it, she said, sliding into the seat. I walked around the car, got behind the wheel again, and we drove off. Where are we going, Paul? I was thinking we could go to TGI Fridays. They have a special lunch. Great, I like TGI Fridays. I asked Dr. Budhecht for a little extra time for lunch today, and he said it wouldn't be a problem, but I wouldn't want to take advantage of it since I'm new to working there. Well, here we are. How about I drop you off at the door while I park? It'll save us a few minutes. Good idea, Paul. By the time I parked and reached the entrance, Heidi had already chosen a table and was studying the menu. We ordered and talked a bit while we waited for our food. During the meal, the conversation died down a bit, but not so much that we felt awkward. Time passed quickly, and the lunch hour came to an end. It was time to return to work. My initial impressions of Heidi as someone I'd like to get to know were only strengthened after lunch, so I decided to ask her about Friday. I really enjoyed today, Heidi. Do you mind going to the movies on Friday? Sorry, Paul, I can't. I interrupted her before she could continue. Sorry, I hope I wasn't too intrusive. I thought you liked it today, I said, embarrassed. Paul, if you'd let me finish, I'd say I can't go on Friday because I already have plans. My son is in a school play. I'd love to go with you again, I just can't on Friday. She smiled at me encouragingly. Well, now that I'm in deep trouble, are you free on Saturday? Yes, Paul, I'm free on Saturday. What are your plans? She asked flirtatiously. I'd like to take you to a movie and then maybe dinner. Is that okay for you? That's very acceptable. Here's my number. Call me tonight when we have more time, and we'll decide when you can pick me up. She handed me a piece of paper as I stopped in front of her office. She leaned over and kissed my cheek before getting out of the car. I really enjoyed it, Paul. Looking forward to your call. Before I could respond, the door closed and she headed back to work. I went back to work too and must admit I didn't get much done the rest of the day. Dinner that night was interesting. Jason and Christy bombarded me with questions about my lunch date, how it went, what she was like, whether I would see her again, a normal interrogation, only now I was in the place of the accused, which had not happened since I was their age. I told them that Heidi is a year younger than me and has one son, 16 years old. She is pretty, of average height, with brown hair and the most beautiful chocolate eyes, and that lunch, although a little rushed due to limited time, was very enjoyable. The main question, whether I would see her again, was resolved in the affirmative. I mentioned that I was going to call her later in the evening to set up a date for Saturday night. It was my turn to do the dishes, but Jason and Christy took over so I could call without delay. I settled into my office and dialed the number she gave me. 2 rings later, a young man answered. Hello, he said. Hello, this is Paul Matthews. Can I speak to Heidi? Yes, she's here. Wait a minute. I heard him hang up and heard conversations, but could not make out the words. Soon Heidi answered the phone. Hi, Paul. How are you? I'm glad you called. Do you have time to talk? Hey, Heidi. Things are going great now that I'm talking to you. I'd love to chat if you have time. I have time. James does his homework before he can pick up the phone, and even if he doesn't, he might lose the phone to his old mom once in a while, she said with a smile. I know what you're talking about, Heidi. I also have 2 teenagers at home, and I have to fight with them for permission to use the phone. I usually don't even answer it because no one calls me. Oh, I know this feeling well, Heidi said. So, Mr. Matthews, what are your plans for Saturday? We spent the next hour finalizing our plans for Saturday and spent the rest of the time just talking about everything and nothing. Time flew by quickly, and it was time to end the conversation, to our mutual regret. We said goodbye looking forward to Saturday. I walked out into the living room where Jason and Christy were watching TV and sat down with them. As soon as I sat down, the TV was turned off and two pairs of eyes were staring at me. Well, they said in unison. Well, I decided to pretend I didn't understand what they were talking about. Where are you taking your lady on Saturday? You can't keep it a secret after we took your turn to do the dishes so you could call, Jason said. We're going to an early movie and then a late dinner, if you must know, I said with a smile. Wow, a movie and dinner, right? Christy said. Sounds safe enough for a first date. I don't think you can get in trouble with a plan like that. In trouble? Me? I haven't been on a date in a while, so I forgot how to get in trouble. Let me tell you, I'm a gentleman when it comes to dating. I can provide recommendations, I said, pretending to be offended. I hope you're not too much of a gentleman, Dad, Christy grinned. You won't have much fun if you're too correct. Sorry, Christy, but I don't like where this conversation is going. Suffice it to say, for the first date, I plan to be a gentleman. I think Heidi will appreciate it. And I'll remember this conversation when you start dating, young lady, I said with a smile. Forget what I said, Dad. Being a gentleman is a great idea, Christy said guiltily. On a serious note, since it's your weekend with your mom, I'm assuming you'll be leaving Friday night like usual, Christy. Yes, Dad. It's a shame I won't be here to wish you luck, but I'll call before you go out. What about you, Jason? What are your plans for Saturday night? I was planning to spend the evening with Jerry and then stay over at his place. Is that okay? Sure, I can take you to Jerry's on the way when I pick up Heidi if you want. That would be great, Dad, thanks. Now that all our plans for the weekend were finalized, we started watching TV again, although I don't remember what was on that night, since all my thoughts were about the upcoming weekend. At exactly 19, I knocked on Heidi's door. It was opened by a young man, slightly taller than Jason, with the same hair and eye color as his mother. He inherited some of Heidi's traits, but others apparently from her ex-husband. I smiled and extended my hand. Hi, I'm Paul Matthews. You must be James. The young man shook my hand firmly. Yes, sir, it's me. Please come in. Mom will be ready in a few minutes. Can I get you something to drink? No, thanks, James. It's very cozy here. James led me into the living room, pointing to the sofa. Would you like to sit down while you wait? I'll tell Mom you're here. I sat down, and James headed deeper into the apartment, where, according to my assumptions, the bedrooms were located. I had been waiting less than 5 minutes when Heidi entered the room. I got up from the couch and, frankly, couldn't take my eyes off her. She looked great. Her hair was curled at the ends and tucked neatly behind her ears. Her eyes were highlighted with makeup, and they sparkled in the light. She was dressed elegantly in a white blouse and black trousers. The blouse hugged her curves gently, and the trousers showed off her long legs. I love beautiful shapes, and Heidi had exactly the shape I wanted to feel. Collecting my thoughts, I spoke. Wow, Heidi, you look great. Your work uniform does not convey all your beauty. You look really great today. Thank you, Paul. You look good too. Are we ready to go? Yes, if you're ready. Heidi turned to James. James, don't forget to lock the door when you leave and be home before midnight, okay? Yes, Mom. I'll be home by midnight. I'm going over to Steve's to play video games for a few hours. That's all. Have a good time. Thank you, dear. We will try. Heidi smiled at her son, and we set off. Your son seems like a very good young man. He is very polite. You raised him well. It wasn't easy, of course, but I'm very proud of what James has become. He's a good boy, and his father's absence from his life hasn't affected him too much. I try to involve him in sports and other activities where he can interact with men. Mostly, I think it helped. I think, judging by the young man I saw this evening, it is so. Such manners are not feigned. It is clear that he was taught this way from childhood. He even called me sir. He knows that adults he doesn't know should be called sir or mister unless otherwise stated. Enough about my son. Where is your car? I motioned Heidi to the passenger side, opened the door for her, and watched as she climbed into the seat. I closed the door and went to my side. I got into the car, started the engine, and we drove off. The film was acceptable, neither good nor bad. I was interested in the company. We held hands the entire movie, and although it was an innocent contact, it was nice to have a woman next to me again. After the film, we went to a cozy Italian restaurant next to the cinema. I chose this place because of its reputation for good food and tables spaced far enough apart to allow conversation without the risk of being overheard. In addition, a small band played there on Fridays and Saturdays. If all goes well, we might dance after dinner. We made small talk while waiting for the waiter to take our order and continued the conversation until our dishes arrived. I ordered a bottle of wine for dinner and we started eating. So, Heidi, are you enjoying the evening? Very much, Paul, she smiled. I don't go out very often, so I really enjoy it, especially in such great company. If you don't mind me asking, how is a beautiful woman like you still single after all these years? I do not mind. My husband left when James was only 6. He didn't feel the need to pay child support, especially after his girlfriend got pregnant, so I didn't have a lot of free time. I worked 2 jobs for several years trying to make ends meet. Then I got certified as a dental hygienist, which helped financially, and I quit my second job. It also freed up my time for James, and I tried very hard to raise him right. Sure, I had dates, friends and family tried to set me up, but men weren't interested in a woman with a child for long, and those who were interested were only looking for one. I never found the right man, and over time I stopped looking. What about you? How is it that a handsome man like you is still single? I wasn't sure how open to be, but honesty is the best policy, so I took the plunge. I told you I've only been divorced for about 2 years, so it hasn't been that long. We were married for 16 years before I found out she was cheating. It was a real shock, I can say. I didn't even realize there were problems until the very end. She fell in love with someone else, and 6 months later I was a divorced father. My family and friends tried to arrange dates for me, but nothing worked out. The end of the marriage was too fresh. I haven't dated anyone for over a year since my divorce. When I saw you, something told me it was time, so I asked you out, and here we are. I'm glad you felt it, Paul. I haven't had such a good time on a date in years. The manicotti is simply wonderful. How do you like the lasagna? The conversation continued in a light, cheerful, and even humorous manner. Heidi had a great sense of humor and could talk about a variety of topics. We finished dinner and wine, and then headed to the lounge. Sitting at a table next to the dance floor, I ordered us another glass of wine. More wine for me after this glass, Paul. I don't drink much, and I don't want to fall asleep on you. No problem, Heidi. Don't you want to dance? We joined other couples on the dance floor and started swaying to the music. I held her close, but not too close. I wanted her to know that I enjoyed holding her in my arms, but I didn't want to seem too aggressive. I really enjoyed holding her. She smelled really nice and felt even better. We danced for a couple of songs and then returned to our table. You're a good dancer, Paul. Not that I'm Ginger Rogers, of course. I haven't danced for so many years that I forgot how much I enjoy it. I'm glad you liked it. I would never have known that you haven't danced for a long time. You move so well, it must be in your blood. I think this is more the merit of my partner. Sorry, I need to powder my nose. I stood up, then sat down again, watching her walk away from the table. I'm not sure, but I thought there was more swing in her walk than before, although that could just be my imagination. She looked just as good from the back as she did from the front. My intentions of being a gentleman were sorely tested with this beauty. I don't know why, but I felt more for this woman than any other since Katie. And surprisingly, I didn't feel as bad about the breakup as I usually do when dating. Although I would never forget Katie and the good times we had together, I knew I could overcome the pain and maybe find someone else. hoping it might be Heidi, but if it didn't work out, I knew I'd keep looking. Heidi returned to our table, and before she could sit down, I led her to the dance floor, where we danced until the band took a break. As we danced, Heidi moved closer and closer until she rested her head on my shoulder. I pressed her a little tighter, letting her know that I really liked her and that I enjoyed our closeness. After the last song, we decided to call it a night, and I walked her to the car. As we walked up the stairs to her apartment, I felt sad that the evening was coming to an end. I really enjoyed my time with Heidi, and I was sure she would too. I sensed her reluctance to end the evening as she walked slower than usual as she approached the door. We soon reached her door, and she turned to me. "I had a great time, Paul. It was a lot of fun, more than I've had in years." "I had a great time too, Heidi. I'm very glad that you agreed to come with me. I feel so comfortable with you that it didn't feel like a first date at all." With these words, I leaned over and kissed her tenderly. She kissed me back enthusiastically, and I thought I felt a light touch of her tongue, but I wasn't sure. Then the kiss ended. "Call me tomorrow, Paul," she asked, opening the door. "Definitely. Good night, Heidi." "Good night, Paul." She closed the door, and I walked towards the car as if flying on wings. The next morning, I woke up to an empty house as Christy was at her mother's and Jason was at a friend's. I made coffee, and after showering and shaving, I sat down with a newspaper and a cup of coffee. After one cup, I decided to go to a local diner for breakfast since I didn't like cooking for myself. I took the newspaper and went to a local cafe for a hearty breakfast. By the time I got home, it was just under 11 a.m. I hoped it wasn't too early to call Heidi, but I doubted she'd be sleeping that long, not with a teenager in her arms. I picked up the phone and dialed the number. "Hello? Hello, Heidi. I hope I'm not calling too early." "Floor? No, I got up a long time ago. I'm so glad you called. Thank you for a wonderful evening yesterday. I really enjoyed it." "Me too, Heidi, believe me." I paused, then decided, "Hey, are you free this afternoon for a walk through the forest preserve? I think today is a beautiful day for a walk." "That's a wonderful idea, Paul. I love walking in the forest. There are great hiking trails there. What time do you want to go? How about I pick you up in an hour? Will this work?" "Great, see you then." This afternoon walk turned into an early dinner in the evening. I couldn't stay too long since both Christy and Jason had to be home by 6. As expected, I received the third degree from my children regarding the date. When they found out that I was with her again in the afternoon, they were both very pleased. "Heidi seems like a very good woman, Dad." "Do you think you'll see her more often?" asked Christy. "I think so, dear. I really like her. She is smart, funny, and pleasant to talk to," I said with a smile. "So, when will you see her again?" "Probably this weekend, but we haven't made any firm plans. I'll definitely talk to her later in the week." "When can we meet her?" "Not soon, dear. I don't want to rush things. She has been divorced for a long time, more than 10 years, and I don't want to rush. I myself am not very sure about this dating thing either. Let's wait a few months before I bring her home, okay?" "Okay, Dad. I hope you continue seeing her, at least for a while. You look happier than you have in a long time, and I want that to continue. I love you, Dad. I want to see you happy." "Thank you, dear. I appreciate it. I really feel better than I have in a long time. I want this to last, but I need to go slow. We both do. I hope you understand." "I understand, Dad, I understand," Christy said. I turned to my son, who had been surprisingly quiet during this conversation. "How do you feel about this, Jason?" I think it's great that you're going out again, Dad. Heidi seems like a really nice woman. I want to meet her too, but I can wait until you are ready, and so is she." "Thank you, son. Glad to hear you two are okay with me dating again. After all, for the last few years, it was just the three of us. I want you two to be included in decisions regarding our family." "You always did that, Dad," Jason said, "and you're doing it now. You deserve adult company, and if that means you spend time with Heidi and not with us, we understand. We are growing, you know, we have our own things to do." We don't want to see you lonely. Don't feel guilty about dating again, Dad. We love you and want to see you happy." I couldn't speak right away. A lump came to my throat. I had wonderful children. What father could ask for more? Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it more than you can imagine. How about a family movie night? I'll make popcorn and you two can pick a movie. We had a pleasant family evening and then went to bed. Heidi and I met regularly over the next few months, mostly on weekends, sometimes meeting for lunch. We still had family and work commitments, and neither of us seemed in a hurry to move on to the next stage. As it turned out, I was wrong, which soon became clear. We were walking back to Heidi's after the party when she asked a question I never expected. "Paul," she said quietly, "don't you like me?" "Are you kidding? You are the most beautiful woman I know. Of course I like you." "Why did you think that?" "Well, we've been dating for 3 months, and I've had a great time. But I want more. I waited patiently for you to take the next step, but you didn't. I know you're a gentleman, and I appreciate that, believe me, but I'm wondering if you're attracted to me enough to want to take it to the next level." To say I was stunned would be an understatement. I didn't want to push her too hard since she hasn't dated in a while, and now she wants more than what I was giving her. I had to calm her down right now or risk losing her. "Heidi, I'm so sorry. I knew you hadn't dated for a long time, so I didn't want to push. Remember you said that the men you met only wanted one thing. I thought you wanted to be taken seriously before you became intimate. It looks like I missed your signals, and for that I apologize too. It turns out I wasted a lot of time when we could have gotten to know each other much better. I held back so as not to scare you away. Thank you for asking for what you need tonight. I appreciate that you didn't abandon me because of my inability to understand your needs. Oh, Paul, you have no idea how glad I am here. I wanted you for a long time, not as long as you wanted me, but for a long time. It seemed like my signals were too subtle, or we had both been out of practice for so long that we missed each other's signals. Do you really need to go home tonight? I really want you to stay. James is visiting a friend for the weekend, so I have the apartment to myself. Wow, now that everything is clear, things are moving very quickly. I need to get some things, and I need to call the kids to let them know I won't be coming home. Other than that, I don't see a problem staying. I have an extra toothbrush, and you can use James' robe in the morning if you want. Call your kids as soon as we get in. I don't think I can wait any longer." I pressed the gas pedal a little harder, and we soon found ourselves in her apartment. While Heidi went to the bathroom to freshen up, I called home. "Hello?" Christy answered. "Hi, dear." "Oh, hi, Dad. Why are you calling?" "Everything is fine." "Everything is fine, honey. I just called to let you know I won't be coming tonight. I didn't want you and your brother to worry." "Well, finally, Dad. I was already wondering when you would spend the night with her." "Oh, not you either. Heidi said something similar earlier, which is why I'm calling." "Well, have a good time, Dad, and don't rush back in the morning. Jason and I will be fine." "I will do so, dear. Good night." I hung up and stood there for a few minutes, collecting my thoughts. At the beginning of the evening, I could not even imagine that a few hours later I would be standing in Heidi's living room, planning to spend the night. God, how nervous I was. I haven't been with a woman since I asked Katie to leave the house, over 2 years. I hoped I wouldn't embarrass myself. I knew that old skills would quickly return. This is not forgotten, but the lack of experience would affect my performance for the first time. I was pulled out of my thoughts by Heidi's voice. "Paul, where are you, dear? I'm waiting for you." "Already going." I headed deeper into the apartment, realizing that I had never been there before, since the bathroom was next to the living room. Although we spent a few evenings on her couch kissing, we never went any further. You'll probably think I'm an idiot for not wanting more with a beautiful woman in my arms, alone in her apartment. I thought about it, but I didn't want her to think that all I wanted was sex. As I got to know her better, I wanted more than just a physical relationship. I wanted her to love me. I wanted to see if I could love her before I strived for more. After our conversation tonight, I knew I could love her, and I wanted her to know it. I easily found her bedroom by the light of the candles burning in the room. A little while later, oh, Paul. She laid her head on my chest, and I felt my skin get wet from her tears. She was crying. Heidi, did I do something wrong? You are crying. No, you're stupid. You didn't do anything wrong. Actually, you did everything right. I'm crying because I'm happy. I hope I don't scare you, Paul, but I think I love you, she said quietly. Here it is, the word love. Hearing this did not frighten me. On the contrary, it made me very happy. I felt more and more for her every day, and now that she expressed her feelings for me, it became easier for me to respond. You didn't scare me, Heidi. Actually, I'm very happy. I want you to know that I think I love you too. I know we're both a little scared about it all, but I know I want to be with you and explore our relationship further. Paul, I didn't think I'd ever feel this way about a man again. After 10 years of being alone, I gave up. I almost didn't accept your invitation to lunch that day, you know. Something deep down made me say yes, and I'm so glad I did. I'm much happier now since I met you. She lifted her head from my chest and kissed me. This kiss was not as passionate as the ones before. This one conveyed love, not passion. This woman was showing me with her kiss how much she loved me, and I kissed back with everything I had. We kissed for so long, occasionally stopping to breathe or caress each other, but always returning to those loving kisses that we both enjoyed. Despite our efforts, we were both starting to fall asleep, so I suggested we turn out the candles and go to bed. Heidi and I quickly extinguished the candles and crawled under the covers. I hugged her, pressing myself close to her. I fell asleep for the first time in 2 years with a naked woman in my arms. It was wonderful. In the morning, we reluctantly parted ways and headed to the shower, where we spent a lot of time scrubbing and soaping each other. I decided to invite Heidi to breakfast so I could spend more time with her. We went to a small diner that served great food and lots of hot coffee, and spent the next hour in pleasant conversation. I wanted to see her again that evening, but we both agreed to spend the evening with family. I drove Heidi home, promising to call later that evening. It was about noon when I walked through the door. I was hoping that, with the kids gone for a while, I could relax without being questioned about the night before. I had almost reached my room when I heard my daughter's voice behind me. Well, it's time for you to go home, she said with mockery and indignation. Wasn't it you who told me not to rush home? I said with a smug grin. When I said that, I didn't think you would arrive at noon. I've been waiting all morning to hear the details, she said excitedly. And you will continue to wait. A gentleman doesn't say that. Besides, my love life, or lack thereof, is not something I'm going to discuss with my daughter. If I could, I would like to take a shower and change clothes. We can talk after this if you want. Okay, Dad, I'll wait for you downstairs. Would you like some coffee? No, honey, Heidi and I just finished breakfast, and I drank so much coffee that I almost floated home. Why don't you wait on deck, and I'll come down in a few days. By the way, where is your brother? He went to Steve's house. He'll be back for dinner. Well, I guess I should be grateful for the small favors. At least I won't have to answer both of your questions at the same time, I chuckled. Don't worry, Dad. I'll tell Jason later so you don't have to say the same thing twice. Okay, I'll be down soon. I went to my bedroom, closing the door behind me. I quickly showered and changed into shorts and a golf shirt. Feeling refreshed, I felt ready to face the Spanish Inquisition, aka my daughter Christy. On my way to the terrace, I grabbed a beer from the fridge and saw Christy sunbathing while she waited. She turned and covered her eyes with her hand to block the sun as I approached. Okay, go ahead. You've made me wait long enough, she said impatiently. Geez, can a guy get settled first? I said, plopping down on another lounge chair. Sorry, Dad, please get settled first. She paused as I took a sip of my beer. Are you comfortable? Yes. Okay, now let's go. We had a very nice date, dinner, and dancing the night away. On the way home, we talked about our relationship and how it was going. She invited me to spend the night. I called you, as you know. We had a great time together. let's go have breakfast, and here I am. That's all? I told you, a gentleman doesn't say things like that. I also told you that I am not going to discuss my personal life with my children. What else do you want me to say? I took another sip of beer and waited for her answer. Dad, tell me how you feel about her. A sleepover implies that she has feelings for you the way you feel for her. I think my feelings for her are quite obvious since I agreed to spend the night. Christy looked at me as if she wanted to strangle me, but I waited her out. Dad, I think the question is, do you love her? I don't think you're the kind of guy who stays overnight with a woman he doesn't have feelings for, she said with a smile that made me trust her. How would you feel about me falling in love again? Would that be okay with you and Jason? I wanted to know if she agreed with this possibility. Dad, come on. You know we want the best for you. Of course we want you to fall in love again. I've wanted you to find someone for a long time, and I know Jason feels the same way. He's talked about it a lot since dating Heidi. So I want to ask you again, do you love her? Yes, I feel it. Very much so, actually. I haven't felt this way since, well, a long time. Christy jumped out of her chair and threw herself into my arms so quickly that I spilled my beer all over the deck. Oh, Daddy, I am so happy for you. When can we meet her? Thanks, baby. I'm glad to hear that. As for when you can meet her, we haven't talked about that yet. We just admitted last night that we love each other. I wanted to talk to you and Jason first, and I'm sure Heidi wants to talk to James too. I'll call her tonight, then I'll discuss it with her, okay? Okay, Dad, but try to make it as soon as possible. I really want to meet the woman who won my father's heart. Christy kissed me again and returned to her seat. We spent the rest of the day together, enjoying each other's company. Although I met James a few times when I picked Heidi up for our dates, Heidi never met my children. I mentioned that the kids and I had talked, and I told them how I felt about her and that they wanted to meet her as soon as possible. Heidi was understandably nervous about the prospect, but she also wanted to meet them. If we were going to continue our romance, bringing our families together would be a necessity. Heidi was much more nervous than I was. I knew Christy would love her, and I was pretty sure Jason would too. Heidi and I decided that we would have dinner at our house on Friday night, when we had plenty of time to get to know each other. On Friday, I asked the housekeeper to stay a little longer to help prepare dinner, and she happily agreed. The plans were made, and all we could do was wait. Friday night, I picked Heidi up from work and went over to her house so she could get changed and make sure James had dinner, and then we left. While I was waiting for Heidi, James and I talked about the change in my relationship with his mother. Hi, James. How are you doing tonight? I'm fine, Mr. Tercy Matthews, and you? I'm fine. Hey, James, has your mom been talking to you since Sunday about us? Yes. She said you're in love, and I think that's great. Mom needs a man in her life, and I think you are a good guy, and you will definitely make her happy. I want to make her happy. I would never do anything to hurt her, James. I want you to know that. I know you won't, Mr. Matthews. I have been following you since your first date, and I see that you are a gentleman and have great respect for my mother. I like you very much, Mr. Matthews. I'm glad you two are serious. James, under the circumstances, I would like you to call me Paul. Does it suit you? Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. I hope you don't mind that we didn't include you in the invitation to tonight's dinner. You had the opportunity to get to know me without my children, and I wanted them to get to know your mother in the same way. We will definitely invite you next time. It's not a problem, Paul. I know tonight is going to be pretty hard on Mom. Meeting new people is always important to her, and I don't want her worrying about how I'm getting along with your kids while she's meeting them. About then, Heidi came in and saw us talking. Are you already plotting against me? She said with a smile. James and I talked about our changed relationship. I wanted to make sure he was okay with it, and I also wanted him to understand why he wasn't invited today. I don't want any misunderstandings. Yes, Mom. Paul wanted me to understand about tonight, and I did. I don't want to be a distraction when you meet Paul's kids. I see, she said, looking at me. I take it you're comfortable with James calling you Paul? Yes, dear, I asked him about it myself. Mr. Matthews makes me feel old. Besides, I want to get to know him better, and calling each other by name will make it easier. She came up to me and kissed me lightly. I'm glad you want to get to know James better. I want that too. She turned to her son. Okay, James, let's get you fed so Paul and I can go. As a single mother, Heidi has become adept at preparing quick dinners. She had something in the refrigerator that she quickly heated in the microwave, and soon James had a hot dinner in front of him. We were soon on our way, heading towards our fateful meeting. The conversation in the car was low-key, and I tried to calm Heidi down. Darling, don't worry, everything will be fine. My kids look forward to meeting you, especially Christy. She had already put up with two guys for too long. She'll be glad to have a woman nearby to talk to, other than her mother, of course. Damn, she'll probably tell you all my secrets, I said, laughing. Oh, I hope so. I need to collect dirt on you, she said, smiling sincerely. You want compromising evidence, right? Don't forget that James knows all your secrets too. I'm sure he could share some juicy stories. I'll have to talk to this boy. I don't need you two men conspiring against me. This little exchange seemed to calm her down, and soon we pulled up to my house. How do I look, Paul? Am I acceptable? Darling, you look great, and you're more than acceptable. I pointed to the door. Let's go. We walked into the house, and I heard the kids talking in the kitchen with Mrs. Roberts, so I headed there with Heidi. Hello, children, we are here. Three faces turned to see us standing in the doorway. I started the show. Heidi, I said, pointing to my daughter, this is my daughter, Christy. Turning to my son, I said, and this is my son, Jason. Without forgetting anyone, I continued, and this is Mrs. Roberts, our housekeeper. Okay, this is my girlfriend, Heidi. Greetings were exchanged, and we sat down at the kitchen table. While dinner was being served, the conversation was subdued, but it seemed to me that Heidi was as comfortable as could be. When it was time to leave, I thanked Mrs. Rose Roberts for staying late and promised her a small bonus on my next check. She smiled at me and said that I have excellent taste in women. I thanked her again and went back to our dinner. Returning to the table, I found Heidi and Christy engaged in an animated conversation. Seeing this, I knew everything would be okay. The following week, we had a picnic to introduce our children to each other. As we had hoped, the children got along great. Our kids went to different schools because of where we lived, but after an hour, it seemed like the three of them had been friends all their lives. Jason and James quickly found a common language, almost like brothers, and their closeness in age contributed to this. The boys included Christy in their activities whenever possible, which Heidi and I greatly appreciated. Seeing our kids get along so well put our minds at ease. By the time we had been dating for 6 months, I felt it was time to take our relationship to the next level. I was sure Heidi would agree with this, so I planned a surprise for our next date. That weekend we went to a movie and then to dinner at that little Italian restaurant where we had our first date. She ordered manicotti and I ordered lasagna. After dinner we enjoyed coffee and dessert. I really enjoyed tonight, honey, I said. Do you want to dance a little? Yes, Paul, that would be great. I really like this place. I'm so glad you brought me here on our first date. Speaking of our first date, I took a small burgundy box out of my pocket and got down on one knee in front of her. Heidi, I love you. Will you marry me? Her eyes immediately filled with tears, but the smile on her face told me her answer even before she spoke. Yes, oh yes, Paul, I love you too, and I will marry you. I kissed her deeply and put the ring on her finger. By the way, if you don't like this style of ring, we can exchange it for any other, but I wanted something to put on your finger today. Paul, it's beautiful and I like it. Probably too expensive, knowing you. I wouldn't want any other ring, darling. This is exactly the one I've always dreamed of. I chose a single-carat round diamond set in white gold to match her other jewelry. I asked James what his mother might want for a ring before I bought it, so I was pretty sure of my choice, but you can always make a mistake, so I negotiated with the jeweler about the possibility of an exchange. People at nearby tables saw me get down on one knee, and there was applause when we returned to our seats. Heidi and I smiled at them appreciatively, and I think we both blushed for a while. The restaurant owner sent us 2 glasses of champagne so we could celebrate, which we did with a toast. After we finished the champagne, we decided to head straight home to tell the kids the good news. Since we were closer to my house, we stopped there first. I was lucky as both my kids were home on Friday night. Christy hugged Heidi, and they both started crying. I will never understand this phenomenon of happy tears. Jason shook my hand and then hugged me. We switched places, and Jason hugged Heidi, and Christy hugged and kissed me. "I'm so happy for you, Dad," Christy said, her eyes shining with tears. "I'm very lucky to have found love twice in my life. I didn't think this was possible after your mother left." I paused to stifle a sob. I didn't want to cry right now. Christy hugged me tighter and whispered in my ear, "I know, Dad, I know. You deserve to be happy, Dad, and I know Heidi will make you very happy. I love her very much, Dad. She is wonderful." For a 13-year-old girl, she was very wise for her age. I knew our lives would only get better. I pulled away from Christy and hugged Heidi. "Children, if you don't mind, we'll go to Heidi and tell James the good news. He doesn't know yet." Heidi didn't know I had talked to James about the ring, so he knew I was going to propose, but didn't know when. "Of course, Dad," Jason said. "Say hi to James from us." "Sure, good night," I said, and we headed to the car and our next destination. We had a lot of time to prepare for the wedding, since Heidi still had 8 months of rent left on her apartment. We planned to live in my house, as there was an extra room for James, and it wouldn't require changing schools. When he starts his senior year, even if he moves, he can finish at his old school. Everyone was happy with it. Christy, Heidi, and my mom immediately started planning the wedding while us men stayed away, except to run errands the ladies gave us. We didn't want a big wedding, as it was the second wedding for both of us. We wanted something we could really enjoy. Heidi was an only child, and her family lived in another state, so she really appreciated the support of Christy and my mom. Heidi asked Christy to be her maid of honor, which delighted her. I asked Jason to be my best man and James to be the master of ceremonies. We planned to have the wedding in our backyard. We had a large yard with plenty of space for guests. The celebration was to take place at a local hotel. I ordered a tent in case of rain. A week before the wedding, we moved most of Heidi and James's things into our house, but they were going to stay in the apartment until the wedding. I made an agreement with the guys and my dad to finish the move while we were on our honeymoon. The day started out bright and sunny without the need to use a tent, which I was very happy about. After breakfast, the kids and I got dressed, and soon after, guests began to arrive. As the time for the ceremony approached, I headed to the gazebo we had set up to wait for my bride. James looked after his mother between guests, and it was his responsibility to turn on the music when she was ready. The sounds of the wedding march echoed through the crowd, and I saw Heidi on my father's arm. She looked beautiful, of course, in a cream dress and a small hat with a veil. Christy stood opposite me, beaming with a smile. She looked like an angel, and I couldn't be prouder of her. Jason stood next to me, looking like a man in his tuxedo. The ceremony was simple, and within half an hour, we became husband and wife. The bridal party and our parents stayed for photos while the guests made their way to the hotel. After the photographer finished his work at home, we also went to the reception. The limousine stopped at the entrance, and I got out of the car, then helped my wife out. I took Heidi's hand, and as we approached the door, the woman came into my field of vision. I stopped dead in my tracks. Standing in front of me was a woman I hadn't seen for a long time, Katie, my ex-wife. I didn't know what to do or what to expect. Heidi sensed my concern and asked what was wrong. I looked at her and smiled as Katie walked up to us. "Hey, Paul, you look good," she said softly. "Thanks, you too. Heidi, this is my ex-wife, Katie. Katie, this is my wife, Heidi." Heidi extended her hand in greeting. "Katie, nice to meet you." Katie took her hand and shook it gently. Nice to meet you, Heidi. Congratulations on your wedding. Thank you very much, Katie. Turning to me, she said, Paul, I'll wait for you there, okay? I nodded, and she turned to Katie again. Thank you for coming, Katie. I'll leave you too for a while. I smiled and squeezed her hand lightly, and she walked away to her parents, who were waiting for us. What brings you here, Katie? I asked curiously. Christy said you were getting married today, and I had to come in and wish you happiness. I'm so glad you found someone to love, Paul. I always felt guilty about our divorce and about leaving you alone. You didn't deserve this, Paul. I'm so sorry for causing you so much pain. She started crying, and I put my hand on her shoulder to provide support. Don't worry about it, Katie. It's all behind us. I'm happy again and don't want to dwell on the past. Will you join us? I'm sure we'll have room for one more person, and the kids will want to see you, I said sincerely. No, Paul. I appreciate the offer, but it's Heidi's day, and I'll only be a distraction. I just wanted you to know that I'm truly happy for you. Goodbye, Paul. Be happy. She leaned over and kissed me on the cheek, then turned and walked away. Katie won't join us? Heidi asked as I approached her. No, dear, she just wanted to wish us happiness. She said it was your day, and she would only be a distraction. She seems like a nice person, Paul. Of course, she must be like that if she was your wife, she said, smiling and kissing me on the cheek. She's a really nice person, Heidi. Except for that one thing that ruined us, it's great, I said sadly. Let's go, dear, our guests are waiting. Married life suited us, and our families blended better than I could have imagined. It seemed like the three children grew up together. They got along so well. Sure, there were the usual sibling arguments, but there was never a problem with the kids playing one parent against the other. James graduated from high school later that year and attended the University of California, where he graduated with an engineering degree. Jason left for college a year later and graduated with honors and is now a law student. Christy is studying to become a fashion designer and hopes to become a fashion designer. I looked back on the last few years and realized that what I thought was the end of my life, the end of my marriage to Katie, turned out to be the beginning of an even better life, a life where I know I am loved, and where I love a woman who is not just she is content with me because she cannot be with the man she wanted. Don't get me wrong, I loved Katie very much and would have spent the rest of my life happily with her if circumstances had been different. But circumstances turned out differently, and I learned that Katie did not love me as much as I loved her. I'm a very happy person. I have found love twice in my life, and am grateful for Heidi's love every day. The only thing I don't regret is divorcing Katie. I couldn't share her love with another man, and if the price was loneliness, I was willing to pay it. What many men in my situation don't understand or think about is that you don't have to be alone. Try to be open to new things, and don't miss the opportunity to find love. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.